Welcome to the Big Red 40K channel. My name is Bear, and today I'm going to be discussing with you why I believe you should probably be tempering your expectations for Chaos Space Marines, even with their new book being on the horizon in 2022. Inside of the book, there are many rumored units, which we're going to be coming with. Bikes, Chosen Chaos Space Marines, Warpsmith, Possessed Chaos Space Marines, a series of mortal units, including Cultists, Traitor Guard, and cultists who are possessed, seemingly, by the forces of chaos, as well as a mortal champion. The release schedule isn't fully known yet. We're not even sure if the Chaos will truly get their new codex in the before the rumored Space Marine book of this year. There are so many things in the way. The Tau release, the Eldar release, the Space Marine release, which seems, to be honest to me, more likely to come before the Chaos release, which will be more than a little awkward. I suspect part of that may tie into sales. GW is much more concerned about the sales of Space Marines than they are of the sales of Chaos Space Marines, especially at this point, given that Chaos Space Marines have very anemic sales. There are not many Chaos Space Marine units which have sold out in recent years, and they do not reflect. They reflect an increasingly small percentage of the community, at least in terms of the generic Chaos Space Marines that make up the core legions, which are the army of Chaos Space Marines. What is going to come for Chaos, though, is unfortunately much more of the same. If you take a look at when Space Marines get new units, they actually get new units. When we got Eliminators, those were a new unit. When we got Eradicators, those were a new unit. Heavy Intercessors are a new unit. Even Intercessors themselves are a new unit. And the assortment of Phobos armor and everything like that. And these new units bring new properties to the game. They bring new properties to the Force, and they further enhance the Force in the game that they are designed to play in. Meaning that they're designed for the game at the same time as the game is being developed. This makes those units very, very powerful. This makes them very good. If we look at Chaos Space Marines, with one exception, which I will be mentioning, there's really two, but one key exception, which I will be mentioning later, those units are just old Chaos Space Marine units getting new sculpts. They particularly don't get anything special or new. They don't get a true facelift. The miniature gets a slightly better miniature than it had before. They are left as the old and weathered units, truly barely changed by time, except for the rigors of time. What makes Chaos Space Marines a substandard at the moment is in really every aspect of the hobby. And I mean this truly, unfortunately. As you see, their miniatures are smaller and less intimidating and often less impressive than their Primaris counterparts. Their lore in recent years has made them quite the butt of many jokes and kind of leaves them as being not truly a faction to either root for or even expect to win, especially now that we go back to Vigilus, for instance. What are the odds the Chaos Space Marines are going to win that vital battle? I think they have to if they are going to be kept as a threat, but I don't expect them to be able to win that. And then if we look at their rules are currently in an atrocious state. And not just because they lack a second wound, they are in an atrocious state because the truth of the matter is they are an old army. They are an army that was designed to play in a different stage of the game. They were designed, fundamentally, with the list of units they currently have, to operate in 3rd and 4th edition. And realistically, they have been a substandard force really since the middle of 5th edition. They have consistently performed poorly, despite attempts by Games Workshop to give them faceless. Anytime they have performed well, it has been under the circumstances of them being a Monster Mash army, or an army that is doing everything it can not to field the titular troops of Chaos Space Marines, i.e. spamming of cultists, spamming of heroes, and just hoping things work out. There have been more creative examples of this, but even the most successful recent Chaos Space Marine armies are more or less just Forge World Monster Mashes. Brilliant forces exist in the lore for these soldiers too, which is deeply unfortunate. The Night Lords, Alpha Legion, Word Bearers, and Iron Warriors are unfortunately increasingly left in the cold when given these types of forces to fight alongside, because they essentially don't match up with their Imperial counterparts in any way. They're smaller, they're weaker, they have worse equipment options, and they have worse overall rules. But the one exception I pointed out, which I personally thought was going to be the big difference maker after 8th edition, was Havocs. I thought specialist Chaos Space Marines were going to be released, and they would be more in line with the Habits. They would be larger models, more impressive looking, and have a dedicated specialist role that would be reinvigorated in the game. Havocs in 8th edition and right now are not the same as Havocs in prior years. They are not just Devastator Marines. They have a changed function. They may have heavy weapons, of course, like they did prior. How they use those weapons has changed significantly. The unit's composition changed significantly. The unit's ability to operate on the battlefield changed significantly. And how that unit operated changed significantly. I thought that this would be the revolution that I was expecting to slowly trickle through, but it appears as though the Chosen are simply just chosen. And the bikers, when we see them, or possessed when we see them, are likely going to simply just be bikers or simply just be possessed with a few small tweaks rather than being the fundamental reimagining of the army that it requires. Chaos Space Marines, the basic Chaos Space Marine, will never be a significant troop choice because it falls into an awkward position of being a power armored unit that frankly just isn't very good. If they're priced too effectively, they would allow people to spam them and treat them as a disposable commodity to throw into the field. And if they're priced too heavily, they become a unusable quantity because they're not good enough damage, they're not survivable enough, and more or less you will always be better with more bodies on the field. So cultists will inevitably become much more desirable, or the attempt to spam more elite units will become more desirable. Because of 8th edition, because of the lack of a new type of Chaos unit, because they basically have fallen behind their Imperial counterparts in every way, there are a large group of people promoting a great deal of hype that once Chaos Space Marines get a second wound, that is going to magically cure the ills of a very sick army. A second wound for Chaos Space Marines is most certainly a vital component towards rehabilitating the army, but the army has so many problems in the kits that it has available to it. It has so many problems in terms of the future that the army likely is going to possess, that I would just like to truly temper people's expectations, because I have the sincere feeling that when this army is launched, there's going to be a lot of people with hurt feelings. With that, I have been Bear. Thank you very much for joining me here today. It's not a subject I like to talk about very much on camera very often, just because I used to play Chaos Space Marines and I don't want to discourage people. But I've noticed that there's a great deal of, I don't want to say false hope, but unwarranted hope going around. And I just, looking at what we see now, I'm very skeptical about any release for this army really amounting to a whole lot beyond, at best, a Band-Aid. If you've enjoyed this content, please consider hitting the like button. We are doing our best to grow the channel at this time. We are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the month. It's a long hope, but that's what we're hoping to do. And if you also enjoy this content, consider subscribing as well. Thank you very much for joining me. I look forward to seeing you in the streams, which we do every single day on this channel. And you guys all have yourselves a great day.